Okay, well,
Some regulars, got some newbies.
got a couple newbies. We're kind of new at this too, so it's going to be a learning experience for us. But today we are going to talk about winterizing your RV.
Well, first off, we want to welcome you. Thank you for coming out. Notice we've got some new faces, so we want to take a moment to introduce ourselves. My name is BJ Wright. I work in the service department. When you call in and have a problem or need to get maintenance scheduled or something of that nature, it's very possible that I'd be the one that you would be speaking with. So, we encourage you as we go through the day to ask some questions. If we don't know answers, we'll assure you that there are people here that will be able to answer your questions. But another new face is Vance.
Hi, I'm Vance. I am orientation and walkthrough here. If a couple of you see some familiar faces that I've done some orientations on here recently. I started back in July, I think. That's how long I've been here. So this is a learning experience for me too.
Yeah, so we're going to cover a few things today. One, the actual process of winterizing, getting the water out, getting the RV antifreeze in, and prepping it for winter. We're going to go over just kind of the things that you would do with your RV at the end of the camping season. When you're ready to put it up for the year, and you're trying to get it prepped so that in the spring it's ready to go. You know, we'll talk about some seals and inspecting that, looking at roofs, tires, suspension, and, you know, just kind of going over it as you would in the winter. I will tell you, first and foremost, the best advice I can give you on winterization and inspection is give us a call and let us schedule something and come in and take a look and let us do it. We know what we're doing, and we're gonna see to it that it's done correctly for you. That said, we do have some specials going right now on some seal inspections, roof inspections, slide room inspections, winterization. And if you come to me today and want to book any of that, I'll take 10% off of any of the charges that those services would be. And same for those that are watching at home. If you, what is today? Saturday, November 5th. If you call before 5 Central Time today and get it something scheduled with me, we'll do the 10% off on that as well. So, with that, we will get started, and I believe, did we discuss, we are going to actually start with the winterization process.
So a few things you've got to do to winterize your RV. You've got to familiarize yourself with where your certain items are on your RV. One of those items, probably one of the most important ones, is your water heater. Usually there's a panel or something inside of your RV that you'll have to unscrew and find the back end of your water heater. And what you want to do first and foremost is drain all of your lines, open up all your lines, drain everything, get everything empty.
Let me touch on that about the water heater. A question we get on the phone a lot is, hey, I can't find the water heater. Well, obviously the outside of the trailer, it's easy to find where it's at. You've got the square door and some of these water heaters on the inside are pretty accessible. Some of them you can lift the bed up and have access to the valves on the back side. Some of them you can get to through a storage compartment. Some of them you've got to take some panels down to get to. You know, they're just not as easily accessible. So I just wanted to touch on that lightly. If that's something that comes up fairly often.
Now when we're emptying our water heater, we want to try to make sure that the water's not hot. Obviously, hot water burns. So one of the things you can do is turn all your water heaters off and run cold water through it until there's no more hot water. And then you want to take your annoyed rod out. And when you take your annoyed rod out, it's a good time and a good chance to check it This is what a good anoid rod looks like. If you've got a metal water heater, some people, you won't have this rod, and then you won't have to worry about it because it will be a...
This one's not brand new. You can see back here, it is. But it's doing what it's designed to do. It's deteriorating, so your tank's not deteriorating.
And then this is an example of an anoid rod that probably should go ahead and be replaced.
No doubt about it.
Yeah. It's been pitted, it's done its job, it's time to move on to a new one. And then after that, after you get all your lines empty, you're going to want to keep your water heater tank unplugged for the winter. Nothing's going to happen to it. Just throw your anoid rod in there with it and close it back up on the back side, on the outside. And there's going to be a couple of bypass valves right here. So if you look right here, these are bypass valves. And you're going to turn those to where, well, they were already off, but you're going to turn them to where they're off.
What he's explaining there, you're prepping that water heater so that you can run the RV antifreeze through your plumbing lines. And you don't want the RV antifreeze going into your water heater. So as it would be set for the summertime, obviously, it's letting water in, heating it, letting hot water out. So first step is you got to get the water heater out of the equation. So you've turned off the supply to the water heater, you've turned off to where the hot water would come out, and now as we run the RV antifreeze in, it's going to go through this bypass and it's going to miss the water heater altogether. And you know, as he's mentioned, pull the anode rod, drain it. As it's draining, you can open that pop-off valve up and let it get a little air as it's draining out. But just a side note as to that's why you want to get the water heater out of the equation and get it bypassed.
So, you know, after you've done that with your water heater, you've made sure all your lines are drained, you made sure all your tanks are empty. That's another thing. Make sure your black tank and your gray tank are completely empty and cleaned. Take your time to clean it. You're going to want to locate your water pump. Easiest way to do that, turn on your water pump. You can hear ours. Some of them are louder than others, some of them aren't loud at all. And then you've got that open, it's going to make noise and pump through. We do have a little bit of water in our tank here just to show you, hey, there's water in the line. And then on the back of the water pump, 9 times out of 10, there is unless you're having, like on the big fifth wheels and stuff, it's different. It's going to be different on every unit. But there's going to be a hose attached to the water pump. And you're going to want to open that up to that line right there, which there's going to be a 3-way valve usually.
Each of your setups may be vary a little from this example, but if yours is different, you've got some questions about how yours is set up, come see one of us afterwards. We can kind of go through all the different types and possibilities of setups for.
We can always take a look at the back of the Sabre here. The Sabre has a different winterization than this one does.
You want water antifreeze in the water pump or no?
It will run through the water. Yeah,
okay.
Yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
Do the newer units not have low points that you open to drain?
Yes, and that is something that you and I discussed last night. Obviously, this example doesn't have low point drains. I'm sure are y'all familiar with what we're meaning when we're saying the low point drains? Yes, yes. Typically, some of them you'll see actually part of the blue PEX and the red PEX coming out the bottom where your low point drains are to drain your plumbing system. And yes, that needs to be drained, and then the caps need to be replaced so that when you do purge it with RV antifreeze, you aren't shooting all your antifreeze straight out the bottom.
So here we carry FVP marine and RV antifreeze. Don't worry, this stuff going through your water lines, it's non-toxic, it's food safe. And you're going to flush your lines before you start drinking out of them anyway. That's de-winterization, another seminar. But you want to take your hose, put it in here, And then you want to find your water pump, sorry. Turn it on, and you want to open, and it'll pull through. And you see that pink coming out of there, that way you know that line is good. And you want to do it with your hot and your cold on every single water outlet, including your outside shower that you have. And your low point drains. So you want to run it through your low point drains and keep them open until you see that pink coming out, and then you can close them, and then go to your next one, and then close it. And then just go through and get every single one of your spigots, both your toilets, your shower.
Another area that is missed sometimes is your city water inlet port. Get that little check valve in there. You want to push that so you get antifreeze coming back out through that.
Would you do low point drains last?
I would, yes.
You don't take the air compressor on and blow it into after you open all the valves?
You can. We have a number of people. When we bring something in for service this time of year, our main question is it winterized? We don't want that thing sitting out there and have a cold snap, and you come to pick it up and something's broke, busted, or something of that nature. And an answer that we get a lot when we ask that question is it winterized? Yes, it is. Okay, does it have RV antifreeze in it? Nope, we just blew it out. We have a lot of customers that is their process for winterization, is blow it out and that's the end of it. I don't recommend that. I don't recommend it at all, you know what I mean? But to answer your specific question, can you blow it out to ensure that you've got the water out before you start purging with RV antifreeze? Yes. Yes, you can.
I figured that would be the best thing to do.
It would keep the antifreeze more of a pure antifreeze instead of antifreeze in water. So yes.
So when you're blowing it out, you turn and, like let's say the outside shower, you open it up, and that's the only thing you open up and blow that first, or you just open them all and blow air?
I would say that either approach would be effective in that. Whether you go through and do, start from your furthest point from your inlet and open up and then start working your way back, but yeah, if you were going to do that, as long as the end result is that everything's open, including your low points and everything, and get all that blown out.
But you're saying it's absolutely not necessary if you use the antifreeze?
I think you should blow the water out. Yes.
I can't see up there to see, but is there where the water comes from the holding tank, and would normally, if you're using the water pump going into the system, is there a toggle on there where the hose attaches where you can shut off back to the holding tank where it just strictly comes out?
Pulls out of the antifreeze directly then?
I mean, is there, I don't know.
In this example, yes. Okay. And in some RVs, yes.
I have one put on mine, so if I need to take out the tank or something, but it sure is handy when it comes to that.
Yes.
All RVs are different. Every single RV is different, depending on brand and size.
Where do you hook up the compressor to blow it out? In the back where that pop on that?
But we've got two possibilities back there in our service department. We've got one port that would hook into the city water fill, and it's got a stem on it like a valve stem would have on your tire. The other option has a male end that would slip into the chuck on the end of your air compressor hose. But you would hook either one of those in at the city water fill.
That's the best way to do it.
Do you sell those?
We do.
Yes. I've had mine for years. I've always used antifreeze, but if I need to blow it out, I can.
It'd be that winter that it really gets good and cold, that could rise up and cause an issue. It wouldn't be something that every winter in this area would maybe cause an issue, but you go a little ways north of here and it probably would. So Yes,
And
that is.
and blowing the airlines out doesn't you'll use a little bit less antifreeze too, because that antifreeze will pick that water up, and you want to make sure whenever it's coming out that it's nice and pink. It's not, translucent.
All right, where are you at to, buddy? Got your.
You were going to talk about this thing right here.
This is an area that can kind of hang you up sometimes. This little filter here. You want to make sure you take that off, dump the water out, clean your filter out. Sometimes these will get a little gunky. You clean them out. But you're going to want to purge that too, so that you get antifreeze coming through and in your.
Is that the city water?
This is your water pump here. So this is.
That one just happens that one just has a
I always
filter
turn
on
my
it.
city water when you stand to the side because that pink stuff's gonna come flying out of it.
Right, now you're talking about the check valve right there at the city of
I
LaForte,
did.
yes. Yes, ma'am.
Something you might want to bring up is when they're blowing out their lines, the check valve in the water pump actually prevents anything going back through the pump. So it's not really being protected or taken care of at the pump. So there's no guarantee if you blow the lines out that the pump will actually be taken care of. There's always some residual in there. And that's when a lot of times that little filter housing busts because they're blowing out the lines, but that's everything on the pressure side. They're getting nothing on the suction side. So a lot of times what's coming from the tank to the pump still has water in it.
And then that would be corrected with the antifreeze as it's added to purge that, so.
Where you're putting your antifreeze in right now, is that where you would blow it from?
No. There's a check valve. Do you know where you hook up your fresh water, city water
Your city
connection?
water port would be where you would hook your adapter to
And that's
pump.
the only place?
Yes.
All right.
So if you're going to use air to blow out your lines, whether you're going to run antifreeze or not, is there a max PSI that you should be using?
45 PSI is the max that you should.
45 max.
Yes.
And then also always have a faucet open before you hook the air up to it.
Yeah, now make sure you've got,
Just one.
make sure, you've got at least one port open so that all that pressure isn't pushing against your shutoffs.
Should you open all of them? Until you know you're getting just
The individual
dry air out of
faucet.
everything?
Have them all.
Yeah, I mean, that isn't gonna hurt anything to do it that way.
That's the best. Because then you wouldn't have to worry about the pressure building too high.
Yeah.
Even if you're gauging that one.
Air compressor, yeah. That plumbing system will tell you if it's not. Yeah, you don't wanna overdo that by any stretch.
Another thing to think of, sometimes whenever you are doing your winterization with the antifreeze, one of these containers, which is a gallon, right?
Yes.
Isn't going to do it. Sometimes you'll have 2 or 3. It just really depends on the size.
Most trailers and RVs, you can do it with 2. Now, some of the real big fifth wheels or some of the real big Class A's, you might get into more.
Forget to shut off your roof.
That'll do it.
Yeah, that'll do it too. Then you'll have
You get to shut off what?
your low point drains.
If you start
Which
putting
are
antifreeze in while they're.
Yeah, they'll just go at the bottom. You'll hear it dripping for sure. There's also a couple other products that that you'll want to get, or that are helpful. You don't necessarily need them. One of them is rodent repellent. Mice in the winter will find a way into your camper, so it's a good idea to have those.
Well, are we sure we're fully complete here? Let's go back over this and recap it a little bit. Make sure everybody's.
So what we did was we opened our water heater up, we opened our low point drains up, we drained all the water out of our tanks. Then we located our water pump and our winterization hose that is on our water pump. And then what we do is antifreeze and run it through every single line until we see pink, one at a time, until we see pink with our water pump on. And after that, close them up. You go outside the back. Then you want to go hit your check valve on your city water connection.
Yes.
And make sure there's some pink, because there will be, with the water pump on, there will be some pressure in the lines, and it will be able to backflow out of that. And once you see a little bit of water come out of the back, and I can show you guys on, maybe we can't on this one. I don't know if this one has exactly what we're talking about.
Very important thing to remember in the spring.
So it does. This one does have it. So I'll show them.
As we went through and discussed draining the water heater and taking it out of the equation, it is equally as important to be sure you take it off bypass in the spring before you fire that thing up. Here's what happens when you light a water heater up that doesn't have any water. So that's important to remember in the spring as you're coming out.
At any time, guys, feel free to, after this is over, feel free to come up here and play with this and look at it.
Would it be smart, after you've done your water heater and drained it and winterized it, you go back and turn those valves back on?
No, because
When you go to flush it.
when you purge it with that antifreeze, you want to keep it out of the
You want to keep the lines a little pressurized with the antifreeze. And if you open that up and you're keeping your water tank heater open and the drain plug out of your water heater, that's going to have air in it. And if you open those lines up, it's going to just drain into your water heater and drain out, and then you'll have.
That little rod that you took out early, you said to do that first, right? That little.
Yeah. Anoid rod?
Yeah, and then anoid rod, you just take it out from the back.
Yes.
That actually comes out from
For the hot water.
From the water
It will
heater.
be on the outside of the camera.
Any suggestions on the hot water heater where the anode goes into it? In the springtime, I always have rust build up there, and I have to take a pipe tap and run it through there to get the rust out. You know a way to prevent that?
No.
Okay.
Actually, they can buy a Suburban brand, and it's got a hardened
Cap in.
cap instead of the steel one, and it does not rust.
Okay.
You pay a few dollars more, but you're also going from aluminum to magnesium, so it'll last a little bit longer as well.
Is that the whole
Yeah,
water
the
heater?
Suburban
You gotta buy the
brand.
whole water heater though, right?
What's that?
You have to buy the whole water heater.
No.
Oh, just
If
that
you
part?
have the Suburban, you can go that
Oh,
route.
okay.
Well, I mean, Suburban's only one with an anode rod.
Okay.
So if you have an anode rod, you can buy the Suburban brand
Oh,
of anode.
all right. Okay.
Yeah, and you can go back there and look and hold them up, and you can see a definite difference.
Okay, thank you.
Leave it to our parts guy to try to upsell you on parts.
You've already sold me on something, so you don't know that, okay? My wife's gonna love me.
As far as that city water connection goes, everybody knows in their city water they have that little screen right here. That pops right out. And then when that pops out, you can basically press, there's a little button in there. You press it, and then you just press that until you'll get some antifreeze on your hand. It ain't gonna kill you. I mean, it's food safe, so basically just got rubbing alcohol in it. Got some. It's nothing bad for you. So that comes right out.
You guys recommend leaving the antifreeze in there, or?
We do, yes. Now, there are folks that, once they've got it winterized and got the water out, they'll drain the antifreeze right then and there. I mean, there are folks that do it that way. As we do it here, we leave the antifreeze all throughout the season.
All our units that are out on the lot right now that are all winterized all have antifreeze in them. So if you guys are walking around, even in the summer, sometimes you'll walk around and you'll see there's some pink, like in the shower or something, because somebody turned it on and some water came out. We do keep them winterized through the winter out there and keep antifreeze in the lines.
On your gate valves, you recommend leaving them open or closed?
I don't really have a recommendation either way, but I would look at them and see if they need lubricated at the end of the season when you're winterizing. and go ahead and do that then? He's talking about the knife valves like at your dump
Dump
valves. Yeah, as far as whether leave them open or closed, that's kind of, there's really not a right or wrong answer there, I don't suppose, but I would go through and get the valves lubed at the time that you do the winterization. A lot of folks use WD-40.
Yeah, you recommend WD-40 rather than like PD Blaster or something? Anything?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of penetrating oil brands out there that, you know, I mean, obviously the most common is WD-40, but
I got a blizzard package on my camper. There's no access to the hose valves on your dump valves. All I got is the handles in the panel, and that's all you can see of the whole thing. I got a couple of them that don't seem to me like they're working as free as they should.
we could probably approach it from the dump end and look at it and see if it's.
I mean, you're gonna have to follow. I took a section of that thing down to get to something, and
You got a fifth wheel?
fifth wheel, it's got a blizzard, all that imposed underneath. When you start the tanks in the street, they're all seized up, so they all get started breaking off, so.
Matt, you had a comment or a question?
Well, I got a house payment coming up, so I wanted to offer a little advice to you. On the dump valves, leaving them open, if you're going to, they make vented caps, so keep critters out of there. And so if you're gonna leave them open, do that. On the seals, I wouldn't use WD-40 or anything that has petroleum distillants in it. It's got to make that seal hardened up. So I don't want to use something like what you're using on your slide rooms. If you can get to them, just spray it with that.
That's the pull.
Yeah, most of that stuff is Teflon based. It's not going to make those seals harder to drink up. Sorry, I lost the point where I was headed. What was the last question? I've been drinking, that's something else.
Leaving the caps off. Leaving the caps off.
Any caps?
Yeah.
You're gonna put in your spray water, and you're gonna put that antifreeze in them too.
You can put some in the holding tanks, yes.
Just pour it down the toilet and drain it to the sink. And in the shower. Okay.
Matt, you had another comment?
One more. Regarding the valves you can't get to, if you're using the right product, the waste product, using the right stuff, it's got drain valve lubricant built into it. It's like that new gin that a lot of you guys are using. It's the best deodorizer. It's also got a tissue digester in it. The drain valve lubricant's in it. So if you're using the right waste chemicals, it's a lubing issue. Literally.
One more thing. I used to put some Dawn in a 5-gallon bucket of water in them things when I go home
In the tanks?
in the holding tank. And then I read somewhere along the way that messes up your indicators in the tanks.
Matt, I'm gonna have to look to you for that one again. Dawn dish soap and water in the holding tanks to clean out, and does that have an effect on the sensors?
I don't know that it would help, but it's not going to hurt anything at all.
Well, I thought I read somewhere that they recommend don't put the detergent in your holding tank.
Well, your sensors are just a bolt head right there on the sides of the tank, and I can't imagine anything hurting that.
I just usually did it on the black tank. I would dump a 5-gallon of water and a bunch of Dawn down there and just let it wash in there.
I don't think it would hurt a bit. If it gets anything out of your tank, you know it's going to help.
Yeah.
So, now let's assume we've got our winterization done, putting this thing up for the year. We kind of want to go through and look at some things. One of the first things I'm going to suggest that you start with is look at your tires. And I can't stress enough to you how many times we could go back and prove this from what we see here. 3 to 4 years is about the life expectancy of a trailer tire. And I'm basing that off of estimates we're writing for body damage where there's been a tire blowout. We get to where we think we can predict it a little bit. You know, you see them make it to a certain age, certain condition. You're never probably going to wear the tread out on a trailer tire, but they will start to dry rot and they get pretty fragile. There is DOT numbers on the tires that indicate when they were manufactured. We can show you all if you're interested of how you find that. But that's something that I would go over and look at. Manufacturers recommending wheel bearing packs once a year. I've always advised people take an honest look at how often you're going, how far you're going. Maybe you can get away with a little more than once a year, but I wouldn't go too far between wheel bearing inspections and packs. Of course, at that time, you can go through and look at your brakes, check the condition of all that, see if there's any adjustment needed there. Go through, look at your slide seals. Are they pliable? Are they soft, or are they getting brittle feeling? If you've got the type of slide rooms, not a Schwintek, but some that requires the tracks to be lubed, that's a good time to go through and do that. Check the condition of the tops of your slide room. Check the condition of your roof. Look around your AC, your vents. We go through a lot of this DICO we're going through and going around vents, AC units, ceiling. Check your edges. Check where your roof meets your nose cap. Is it getting loose there? Anything starting to wear or tear in that area? Is there any holes anywhere? I try to advise people to keep a notebook in your trailer with you, and as you're camping throughout the season and you run into things that you think, this fall when I put this up, this needs some attention. Make yourself a list, and whether you are a do-it-yourselfer in the fall, you'll remember everything that you've noticed through the season, or if you call us in the fall and schedule something, you get that list to go through with us and break all of that down. But, Vance did mention rodent repellent. We sell a product back here that seems to be pretty effective. There's a number of different rodent repellents and wives' tales and ways that folks try to keep the rodents out, but that is important. We've put a few back together that the mice have tried their best to unwire.
Yeah, even since I've been here, I've been out in the garage and seen some rodent damage, and they can tear a whole couch apart.
Here's something else that's a good idea in the fall when you're done and you're putting it up. Some of you may have a power port where you park your trailer where you can plug into shore power. Some of you may not. If you do have the shore power available, plug in and get your battery charged fully. If you don't, remove your battery and put it on a charger. But the bottom line is get a full charge on your battery and then remove it from that trailer. If that trailer is sitting if it's sitting outside or it's somewhere where it's not temperature controlled, batteries can freeze, specifically discharge batteries can freeze. And
they sell a product that's off the switch. You just turn the battery off.
We can do a disconnect switch, yes. And if you have a disconnect, I would turn it off, but I'd still advise to remove that battery and get it somewhere where it's not going to sit in below freezing temperatures.
You don't recommend leaving it plugged in. If I've got it in a building, I leave it plugged in where it keeps the battery plugged.
Is the building climate controlled? I would go ahead and take the battery out of it.
Still leave it plugged in,
Mhm.
have lights if you want.
Yeah, your converter's gonna run on your 12-volt items at that point.
With the battery out.
Yes. If you're plugged into shore power, well, yes.
I just thought of one more thing looking at on that strip along there that where the stuff comes over.
Is
On
here,
mine, there's a little plastic strip that covers all them screws up that goes in there. Do you sell that?
We do.
here?
if I'm on the same track with you, it's probably either white or black, and is
Right.
it vinyl?
It's a plastic strip. There's two little, on the top and bottom, there's two little tracks there.
Yep.
And,
We'll sell you all you want.
okay, I got,
You can run laps around this place with it if you want to.
I must have hit a few,
Branches?
Yeah,
We'll get them.
there's a couple places I need to replace that.
That's another product that ages in sun quickly
Yeah.
and gets brittle.
Okay, I just thought about that and I
Yes,
want to come over here and check with you.
we've got it.
Okay.
Matt's getting all the coverage today.
He ought to be able to get ahead a couple of houses.
Yeah.
If it goes on an RV, we probably got it,
Or can get it.
or can get it. Anybody got any questions on anything else?
If you have it outside, we don't have, unfortunately, we don't have a garage to put this in.
Yes.
So it stays outside. Is it best to have a cover over it or not?
I'll be right back.
I found my old one with the cover on it, fly a bit faster.
If you ask 12 people that question, you're going to go get 6 answers one way and 6 the other. What's your suggestion, Matt?
I didn't hear the question.
He's asking, is it better to cover or uncover if you don't have climate control and you're keeping it outside?
If you're buying a cover and not a tarp, cover always. Anytime you can keep the sun
Directly off the
rays
roof?
off of it, all your plastic, the roof's not going to powder up on you. If you're using the right product, I would cover it every, as long if it's going to be down more than 2 months, I'd put a cover on.
Tarps are bad, right?
Tarps are very bad, especially if you have a metal-sided camper. They'll beat on it, actually ruin the finish. They'll get right down to the aluminum.
So this is the branded cover that we sell here. After this is over, feel free to come out and look at this. It's definitely not a tarp, but it does protect it.
It'll let air in and out.
Yes.
But it keeps the water out or just keeps the sun
I'm not going to use a mic. You got a loud voice. It's going to resist water. It's not waterproof, but it does have vents on it to keep it from billowing out or to help keep it from billowing out. This particular, it's the Adco Hydro cover. This particular one has zippers on each side. So if your door is here, you undo 2 zippers, you can get in it when the cover's on. It also has on the other side in case you want to open up the slide room while the cover's on. There's not too many covers that have this, but it is absolutely going to, the water's not a big issue if the seals and everything are maintained and taken care of because they can't get in. So keeping the sun off of that, especially when you're not using it, is key. And I don't care if you use, honestly, I don't care. I'd love for you to buy it here, but if you buy it anywhere, it's a good idea to have a cover on it if it's going to be down for more than a couple months. I would say if it's going to be down for a month, but these are not fun to put on and take off every time. But it absolutely is a good idea. The other thing is to have, maybe before you put it up, they've got those Protect roof kits by Camco that's got a gallon of the cleaner and a gallon of the actual UV protectant in it. If you're not going to cover it, just make sure you're doing that. At least once a year. Doesn't matter spring or fall, but do that once a year if you decide you don't want the hassle of putting a cover on. But yeah, it's a great idea to have one. Now the other thing, if you're looking for a cover, you want to measure the box of the RV. If you have a spare tire or ladder, come out off of that as well, because your 28 RES or whatever is not 28 foot long. It could be 25 feet here and they're counting the tongue as well. So different manufacturers give different measurements or measure different ways to give you that impression that you're actually got a 28 footer, which you do, but the first 3 feet of it you're using for battery, you know. So measure it and then give us a call and let you know if we've got them. Right now, I'd say they're averaging a third off of the normal catalog price and such. And this particular one you can't get on Amazon. These are only sold, this series is only sold to RV dealerships. So us, you know, anybody, Camping World's got them. We try to stay very competitive with Camping World on the covers, but it's because we buy a truckload every year.
Do you have like not necessarily the same brand, but a lesser model that doesn't cover the entire?
Absolutely. You can get roof covers.
Okay.
I don't know that they have a hydro roof cover. They've got what they call an SFS Aqua Shed. They've got a few different lines, but these they've held out the best. You know, and
I'm usually not down for more than a month. We camp during the winter, so I didn't want something that I'm going to fight to put
yeah,
on.
then you could look into. And again, if you buy a new RV today, I recommend doing that roof treatment once a year. It's not a coating. It's not a sealant coating. It does coat your roof, but it's just like a real thin membrane on top of your roof, so the sun eats away at that rather than the membrane. But if you're taking care of the roof yearly, and you're maintaining your seals every 90 days, you're religious about getting up on top of that camper and checking that out, or having somebody else. Just make sure that happens. If you're doing that, you know, you don't necessarily have to have a cover. But if you're not maintaining that roof, you're going to have a mess. It's just plain and simple. We've got examples out there. You know, we got campers out there that are 2 years old. You know, we're putting $7,000 roofs on right now because they didn't look. I've not looked at the roof one time since I got this camper. Bad deal. And it's not defects, it's just the material itself expands, contracts, it flexes going down the road, and those lap sealants just put a little real tiny crack in them, and that, you know, that's letting water in. People don't think about having a 2-year-old camper, but it happens. I mean, that's all there is to it. Fortunately, when you buy a camper here, the inspection, the campers don't sit here longer than 90 days for the most part, so during the inspection, we're taking care of everything, but I guarantee there's units out there on the lot that have small cracks in them right now, brand new. And when they're brought in, that's taken care of, but you have to maintain those seals. And again, if you use a cover, it's going to shed that water. You know, it's going to get damp underneath it, but it's not going to flood into things.
It's not going to be like it's sitting out in the rain.
Right, exactly. And if you're maintaining and checking out those seals, you're going to be taking care of it without a cover. So, cover's a great idea, but not required if you're taking care of your investment. You know, thing right there.
So I got a carport for mine under. Sides come down halfway or so. I guess that's
great.
That's great.
Keep the sun off the road.
You just don't have room for everybody's is a problem.
Yeah. Well, the reason I live in a woods back there, and the first year I had this thing, I was looking out there about the middle of winter and seeing all the crap that accumulated on the top of it. I said, this ain't gonna work.
Yeah, and it's kind of the same
thing. I tried to put a tarp over it, and that's a pain.
Oh yeah, it's not fun. Chad and myself and another salesman went out to put one on here not too long ago and put on backwards the first one.
I mean, I hated to find. I bought one of the metal ones, you know, put it up in the day. It keeps it out of the weather, and the top stays dry. The sun don't be on.
And I did want to add one more thing about the winterization. Things have really changed the last few years. Everybody knows that a $30 water valve for a toilet is now $70. You can buy 10 gallons of antifreeze for less than $7, or $70, I'm sorry. So what I'm getting at is if you don't know how to winterize, and you're worried about it, throw it in your gravity fill. You know, where you fill your freshwater tank, throw antifreeze in there, 10 gallons. It's going to take a lot because you got to fill that tank and then get to the lines. okay, and you've got a small portion of your tank that doesn't get picked up anyway, nature of the beast. But throw 12 gallons, 15 gallons in that water tank, and then use the pump to pump everything. The goal is to get antifreeze throughout the camper. You're doing it, we're doing it. You know, get it in the tank somehow, and then use your pump to get it to all your faucets. You know, you're not bypassing anything. That's why it's taking a lot more. But again, you can fill the water heater and several gallons in the tank to make sure you're getting it done cheaper than a toilet valve if you forget to do that toilet, or you don't get it down well enough. So, something to think about. Take care of it. Yeah.
I don't know if I missed it. I don't remember hearing anything about antifreeze in the drains.
Generally, you can do any of these campers here with 1.5 gallons, and then pour what's left. You know, split it between the drains.
Okay.
The traps.
Just enough to clear the P traps.
Yep.
Anyone else have any questions?
Going back to where you said you just dump a whole bunch of antifreeze, does it matter if antifreeze sits in the hot water heater? Because I'd rather use your method. I think it's a little more.
Well, it's guaranteed.
But yeah.
It would be a lot cheaper for us to have one guy with a golf cart and an air compressor to go around to every camper we have on the lot and just blow out the lines. People do it. Businesses do it. Other RV dealerships do it. We changed our method 3-4 years ago. Every one of these have antifreeze pumped in them, because if so-and-so's working on it and he forgets something, it's the same thing. It's a $70 water valve. It's not warranty, so Chad has to eat those. So the reason we do it that way is because it's much more effective.
If you do it that method,
if you pump it, as long as you pump it through the system rather than just blowing out the lines.
Yeah, if you use that method, you just take the handle rod out after you're done.
Exactly right.
So you're saying you can put antifreeze in?
You can. It's a lot more expensive, and you're approaching the number of a winterization. You know, by the time you get everything done.
I didn't hear that question.
He asked if you could. You can put it in your holding tank and pump it through. Absolutely.
No, he's asking.
Water.
He asked if you pump antifreeze through his water heater.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page. I might have just said it wrong. You can. I'm talking to the guy that hasn't grasped what we're talking about as far as winterizing. So the guy that doesn't know he's got a bypass valve and all that stuff, will put it in his tank and pull it through everything, water heater and everything, just to make sure that everything's done. So you've got 6 gallons of antifreeze in your water heater, and then it starts pulling it to the lines. So that's what I meant. The guy that, you know, I'm leaving here and I'm just still a little bit fuzzy on what I'm supposed to do.
It's gonna, before the lines will fill, you would have to fill the water heater first.
So,
I just didn't know the negative effects having.
So it is okay if you get some antifreeze in the water heater?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, okay.
Absolutely.
When I was doing mine last year, I got a fifth wheel, I forgot to do the bypass.
Mm-hmm.
And antifreeze isn't going to hurt anything.
It's not going to hurt in the water.
It's not going to hurt anything. No.
But if you take your heating element out and you do the bypass, as long as you get the water out of your water, you don't need to.
Correct.
Yeah.
But what
I'm just, you know, last ditch effort. I've got to get this thing winterized. It's late in the day. I don't have time to take cabinets apart and maybe get to the valves and then put it in a jug and pull it through that way. So I'm going to load my tank up, my actual tank fill. You know, the one that's a little bit larger, you can stick the garden hose in. I'm going to get a funnel and I'm going to put 12-gallon antifreeze in that tank, and then I'm going to pump it. Just turn on my pump and start going faucet to faucet. That's a guaranteed way. The only thing you're not doing if you stop there is the city water connection on the outside. You know, if you just stop right there, you're not getting that taken care of, but you're 100% getting the pump taken care of, all your lines taken care of. As long as you're hitting the toilet, the outside shower, and all that, it's going to be just as good as a winterization, but much more costly on the antifreeze part.
When you start from the farthest?
Yep. Farthest away from the entry of where you're at. Yeah, if you're doing it to your pump.
You got a fifth wheel, you still start from the farthest point and then end up at some up on top.
Yep. And it should be the same color as what's in the jug when you start. If it's much lighter, too much water in the system still. And so
That, what he said.
Yeah.
Somebody might start at the top. I don't know if that makes any difference or not.
I think all that's doing is if you start here
Making sure.
and get it to the furthest pump, you don't have that much to make up again. So if you start at the one close to it and then go to this one, you got to make up that distance. So you're already time ahead if you go to the furthest one.
You go to the furthest one.
One more thing, I don't know if you guys mentioned it, been playing video games. Ice makers,
We haven't touched on ice makers,
washing machines.
or washing machines. And that can get into a pretty in-depth conversation, but some of you that do have ice makers or washing machine, most of that would be in typically a fifth wheel or Class A application. But you do need to winterize those two items as well. Some of the ice makers you can force it to pull antifreeze up in. Some of them you've got to sit there and wait for it to make ice and draw the antifreeze up into it. Same with the washing machine. You need to run a cycle, get everything purged with the RV antifreeze with that.
When you've got an ice maker, like on a fifth wheel, that's in like a residential style, because some fifth wheels have residential style refrigerators with residential style ice makers. And with that, you've got your little clear hose that goes into it. What I was told was you have to disconnect that hose and drain the water out of it.
And that is one possibility of, depending on what your exact setup is. But yes.
If you have a motor home, you need to remember to put the stay-bill in the fuel and run it through your generator and your
What was that? She's talking about like engine maintenance, on whether it be your generator or your Class A or Class C or something of that nature. Which is a great point. That's another prime time to go through the chassis side of things and see if there's any items that need to be done or brought up to speed there or anything. So. Yes.
Did you have a handout?
What's that?
Did you have a handout for this
We
class?
do. We do.
Does anybody else not have a handout?
And these handouts are going to be here the rest of the day too. So
I've put some cards up here of mine as well.
yeah,
And
I don't have cards yet.
Like I mentioned, if there is some maintenance that you are needing to have done and you want to get it scheduled, come and see me today. I'm here till 5 o'clock. Don't have techs in the shop today, but I do have the capability to get something scheduled, get it in, and I'll knock the 10% off for you all of it.
We also have checklists up here too. Checklists.
Yeah, we've got a few
I
items.
think I have a couple actual checklists in my office. Right?
The main thing with all this is develop a process for yourself. You know, I mean, as much as they are, they need to be cared for properly. As much as you pay for them, they are. There's a lot of items on them that are fragile. There's nothing wrong with being a do-it-yourselfer and jumping in and doing all this yourself. But get yourself a process in place. If you have to, write it out. You know, of what you go through each spring and what you go through each fall. The main thing you're trying to accomplish is to prolong the life of it as much as you can. So whether your process be that you do it yourself or that you call us and have us do it, they can deteriorate quickly if they're not cared for properly. And we, unfortunately, in the role we're in, we see that.
You recommend, taking the wheels off, clean the bearings, pack them, and then every year?
The manufacturer will tell you to do that every year, yes.
Got the grease buddies,
They're going to recommend hand packing over grease buddies, the certs in the
I
end.
mean, the grease buddies come with the camper, but
And it's better than no attention at all. The best is going to be tear it down and do a hand pack. Do a hand pack.
You definitely don't want to put more than a pump or two in those.
Yeah, you can put too much in.
oh yeah, I know. I had to learn that the hard way. I also got a boat trailer, and that's where I seen where it was oozing out of that.
It's amazing the things that'll give you wisdom through the years, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, guys, if you guys have any other questions or you think about something at home, you know our hours. Feel free to call us anytime.
And like I say, I'm going to be here all day. I'm going to go back and start getting some things done for the service side, but I'll be around if y'all. We encourage you to come over and look. We've got a fully stocked parts department over there. And Matt's certainly been trying to plug that all morning, so you probably ought to come take a look at that. Satisfy him.
He really wants some attention today, so go back there and talk to Matt.
But again, we're glad to have you back for these seminars. We've missed you. I think all of us enjoy doing these and having you come out and see us. So thank you again, and make yourselves at home.